So here's a question for you. Have you ever ran into people that deny reality? You know, like flat earthers, for example, or people that come up with conspiracy theories that you think, man, that is utter nonsense. The reason that I ask that is simple. Over the last few months, there have been quite a few Rotten Tomato apologists that refuse to see their treatment of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. They, like many other people before them, have come up with these inane theories that things change, even though they don't, and the number that you see over audiences has changed. I wonder if it's like pictures of Nessie, in Loch Ness. I wonder if there's a blurry photo out there somebody is captured saying, well, if you'll stare hard enough, maybe that 6 becomes an 8, and maybe, just maybe, you're wrong. Waiting for that day. And if you're one of those people, too, that say, why would this be happening? Well, it's captured right here by Variety. Fandango owns Rotten Tomatoes, and these type of moves, they drive more ticket sales. Who exactly benefits from that? Well, I'll let you decide. So hey there, so today I wanted to return to that wonderful world of Rotten Tomatoes to not only look at this number, to catalog the fact that, well, again, it never ever changes, but to see exactly how things have fared, to give one final glimpse at this movie. Now let's be absolutely clear when we define this too. When we're talking about the fluctuation or the lack thereof, we're not talking about this number, 86%, locking in and staying there for the duration, going from 0 all the way to 100,000. What we're saying is, after a few thousand votes, this number locks in and it never ever deviates. Don't you find that to be rather odd? I mean, if you look at the example in front of you here, you'll notice that you have a different audience score because at the very, very beginning, there was indeed a little bit of fluctuation. You had verified ratings at 25. That means you have users that are rating this at a 3.5 or higher. 88% there. I mean, really, isn't that weird? As you continue forward, under 1,000 ratings, you still have that going up and down. You see an 89% with that 646 users. Again, you have something that does indeed change up. The problem that you run into is that somewhere along the way, you still have critics that are moving along. You'll notice that that number keeps deviating, but the audience score, it locks at 86%. Here you have a verified rating of 6,231, and that number, it hasn't changed despite the fact that you've added almost 90,000 user ratings to that. There are plenty of sources that end up capturing this too, whether by design or not. Take this article, for example, from Bounding into Comics, a source that you should definitely check out, by the way. Rotten Tomatoes audience score for Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker revealed. You notice that they're not setting out to prove anything about this. They just end up reporting on it. And when they do, well, they end up recording a testament to something that seems rather peculiar. I mean, if you notice this audience score here, you have your verified user count at the time at 7,148 users. You'll notice a certain number up in the corner. That's right, 86%. Now, the interesting thing, as I've said in this, is that the critic rating, it continues to fluctuate. It continues to decline. But that audience rating, the thing saying, hey, audience, you will enjoy this movie, it never ever freaking move. Here's another source from We Got This Covered that was talking about the divide between critics and audiences 3 months ago and accidentally picked up something about this too. Reading this too, you can tell that it's just like the Bounding into Comics article, that it accidentally picks up this idea. Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker has received an unexpected critical beating this weekend. With 290 reviews in, the verdict for the tomato meter is rotten, with critics calling it nonsensical, poorly plotted, and lacking emotional resonance. But, as is typical these days, there appears to be a divide between the critic's opinion and the general audiences. So again, this is about that divide. Right now, The Rise of Skywalker is setting at 58% on the tomato meter, but with an audience score of 86% after 5,719 ratings at the time of writing. So, this is one of the early earlier examples that you get, you know that this locks in somewhere around 5,000 reviews. And like I said, there are plenty of examples that note that this, as it moves forward, it never ever deviates. Now, here are videos that were compiled around 2 months ago, which is around the 20,000 mark. And if you look at the number and the ones that you can see, one of them is crossed out on the left, but you'll notice that that's 86% there. And the one on the far right, yep, 86% as well. I mean, we're talking about, again, a number that never ever deviates. Now, this is an interesting article from Reclaim the Net. If you've never checked them out, they actually catalog some pretty interesting stuff, noting that new data shows strange patterns in Rotten Tomatoes Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker audience reviews. The audience score for the movie has been stuck at 86% since it gained over 60,000 reviews. You'll notice the date on that. Again, we're moving forward in that, and you'll see the audience score here, 69,617, and it is still stuck there. As they note in this too, this 86%, as we noted through shots, that's been there since 6,231 reviews that they note. And they also note some other patterns as well. See, in this article, they bring up YouTuber Sheila Allen, who scraped together originally 2,500 reviews and performed an original text analysis, suggesting in the video that the similarities between many of these short reviews point to them being fake. And the reason they would be fake, well, we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Now, Allen has scraped together an additional 6,000 reviews from Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker from Rotten Tomatoes and found that this strange pattern is still prevalent even when looking at a much larger sample. For example, variations of the phrase "great end to the saga" appear more than 260 times in the 6,000 scraped reviews, with the phrases listed below appearing in 4.3% of the reviews. So look at this and look at how often this stuff appears. Great way to end, that appears 46 freaking times. Fitting into the appears 44 times. Great ending to the appears 31 times. Good way to end appears 20 times. Great end to appears 20 times. Great ending to the appears 19 times. Great ending to a appears 17 times. Satisfying ending to the appears 14 times. Satisfying conclusion to the appears 13 times. A great end to appears 12 times. Perfect ending to the appears 11 times. Fitting conclusion to the appears 9 times. Perfect way to end appears 9 times. Now, as someone that has sat around grading college papers in my life, I have to say that when you start seeing variations like this, trying to point out the same thing, you have to start asking yourself hard questions. Those hard questions consist of, are there that many people out there that are not creative? And yeah, there are. There are quite a few out there. But would they all come to that same conclusion? Would they all start copying one another? 46 times to say a great way to end, or 20 times to say a great end to. Again, telling you that you, as an audience member, need to go out and check out this, and especially on a review aggregator site that's brought to you by Fandango. See, that's the real rub in a lot of this, and a fact that so many people ignore. The fact that Rotten Tomatoes, they've gone out and they've revamped their entire site, where they focus on verified ticket buyers to fight off those quote-unquote trolls. See, color me cynical, but when I read the following, it makes me think maybe there's another driver for this. But it's also a way for Fandango, who owns Rotten Tomatoes, to drive more ticket sales. Initially, the only way users could have their rating count toward to audience score will be through a Fandango purchase. Fandango, of course, insists that boosting ticket purchases was not the primary driver for the audience score change, noting that it has deals with all of these different theaters out there to participate in a program to let their customers verify ticket purchases on Rotten Tomatoes sometime later in that year. Again, they can drive ticket sales by saying the only people that can rate this are, if you don't prove that you bought it through us, well, you don't get to have a voice. And that leads us to now, with a score that is still locked at 86% as verified ratings roll goal toward 100,000, and with a reason that could happen. Again, coloring me cynical, but I'm wondering, will this ever change? And why should you trust this site at all? Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me end by saying this too. You make these endeavors possible. Not enough people thank you for your participation, so thank you for it. Whether you're subscribing, whether you're sharing videos, whether you agree or not, that stuff doesn't matter. You showed up, you made it to this point, so thank you. I appreciate you. And well, I don't want to monopolize your time further. I just want to say we'll do that again. So if you like this, check it out. Thank you.